The Twins get a little closer to the Guardians, and Matt Wallner gets a little closer to ripping a hole in the space-time continuum with one swing. It's time to talk AL Central standings and StatCast batted ball events, so you better get locked on Twins.
You are Locked On Twins, your daily Minnesota Twins podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello again, everybody, and welcome back to Locked On Twins, your daily go-to destination for the latest Minnesota Twins insight, discourse, and analysis. A reminder that the Locked On Twins podcast is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And that team, for most of you, I would imagine, is the Minnesota Twins, who beat the White Sox 8-6 in 11 innings Monday to close within 5 games of first place in the AL Central. We're here to talk about the details. I'm one of your co-hosts, Dave Brown, a member of the Baseball Writers Association of America since 2012 and general ball writer since 1998. Across cyberspace for me is Brandon Warren. Brandon, tell all the nice people about yourself.
You want to know how old I was in 1998, Dave Brown?
11.
12.
Well, I had the under. So
Yeah, you had the under, so you're good. Hey, I'm Brandon Warren, and I have covered the Twins for 15 years, watched them for about twice as long as that, and started out as a fan when I was just a wee lad. So glad to have you guys with us and excited about today's show, which is, by the way, brought to you by Prize Picks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnMLB and use the code LockedOnMLB. That's all lowercase. That's all one word, and they'll give you a first deposit match of up to $100.
So as we hinted, the Twins are in the midst of a series against the White Sox, which always sounds like a great idea. Let's play the White Sox and let's get some easy wins. Not an easy time. Last night at U.S. Cellular Rate, guaranteed hard time, 11 innings. But they did win their third straight, the Twins, to improve to 13 over 500. It is what else happened last night? Wallner and Brooks Lee are filling out the lineup nicely. Caleb Fieldbar and Cody Funderburk had clean innings, which you can't dismiss. The offense is humming along. They've averaged 8.8 runs a game since the 4th of July, just to put out a date. Marnie Gellner had the call on TV, so she had Matt Wallner's impressive home run of 116.7 miles an hour. It wasn't the hardest ball that you've probably ever seen hit. That's probably someone like Giancarlo Stanton. He's gotten into the 121 mile an hour range, but it sure seemed like the hardest. Does it seem to you like Wallner is being the best version of himself right now at the plate, Mr. Brandon?
Yeah, and he had a ball that he absolutely pasted in the finale at Target Field, too, that I think was 117 once you account for rounding and significant digits and all that. So to see him hit a ball the way he has or hit multiple of them is, I mean, what a guy to have in your number 9 spot in the order. This is what my friends call the demon lineup, where 8 of the 9 guys have OPS or weighted runs created plus, whichever you prefer, over 100, or I think 7 of them are over 110. And they're getting just enough pitching to do what it takes to win ball games. They're on pace for, do you know how many wins they're on pace for?
93 wins.
Yes. And what did you say before the season? Did you say 97?
I said 98.
Either way, I mean, if you count their pace since the 7-13 start, they're probably right around your pace. And I think they can continue to play somewhat at this level. So I am eager to see where things are going. By the way, you can catch every pitch of the Twins hometown broadcast with Chris Atterbury. It's not Chris Atterbury, though, right now. It's Sean Aronson of St. Paul Saints fame, rather. And I believe Danny Gladden, but it's on SiriusXM. Just download the SXM app, search Twins. It's Bailey Ober against Eric Fetty. First pitch, 7:10 p.m. this evening at Guaranteed Rate Field / Comiskey Field / Comiskey Park. Sorry. But yeah, Mr. Aronson, Sean Aronson. So they got a pinch hitter on PR for the Saints. Actually, they had a few moves today. Zach Weiss and Brock Stewart are starting rehabs. Not to steal your thunder, but just something I thought I'd throw out there.
The gang's all getting back together. It would be impressive to see. They could have probably used Brock last night, and maybe they could use him tonight as well. I think Cole Sands might be the only guy who didn't get in the game last night.
And Weiss is actually having his rehab transferred from Fort Myers. So he's been on the rehab trail for a minute. Stewart's just getting going. And so big things popping. I don't know what the plan is for Weiss because the way their bullpen looks right now, I don't really see an obvious spot for him. But, they always say the Lord will find a way. You think you have an issue with roster spots and suddenly Austin Martin's hurt. So it is what it is.
Obliques, sometimes they come out of nowhere. But the bigger picture with the Twins right now, they moved to within 5 games of first place of the Guardians in the AL Central. Cleveland lost 1-0 to Detroit. It's kind of it's always a celebration when the Twins are able to win a game on the same night that the Guardians lose.
Doesn't happen much.
Traction as far as the AL Central goes. I think I was looking back at how far back the Twins have been at various points, and they were like 7 games out of first place, 8 games into the season, or something like that. Mm-hmm. So it's always seemed like they are playing from significantly behind. I think that's part of the psychic or mental state of fans and maybe even the team. I don't know at this point. It always seems like the Twins have been just trying to claw back into things.
Really?
The beginning of the season.
By the way, Cater Montero is who shut them down last night, and so Kenta will go tonight. But they still have to contend with Reese Olson and Jack Flaherty. So Cleveland does not have an easy path in the rest of this series, and I'm excited to see. They'll miss Tariq Skubal, unfortunately, for the Twins, but fortunately for the Guardians. But, good to see Montero, who I felt like was pretty tough on the Twins, too, take care of business against trying to remember who was starting. I think Gavin Williams, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it was Gavin Williams. And it's funny how these guys that you maybe you haven't heard of come up against the Twins and shut them down pretty well over a bunch of innings. And you think maybe coming in that you've got some kind of advantage. And then they don't get it. And then you think, well, he's just doing that because it's the Twins. And Rocco had some kind of reverse devil magic. But then he goes and he performs so well against the rivals. So it's not just you. It's not just your team.
Everybody feels that way. Everybody hates their third base coach. Everybody thinks the backup catcher is either underused or overused, but it's always a conundrum in the minds of the average fan.
So let's look at a couple numbers as far as how the Twins have shaved off some of this lead. They've moved up 4 games in the AL Central, closer to first place in the past 2 weeks since June 25th. And that's when they were a season high 9 back. They've been 9 back a couple different days. This is the closest they've been to Cleveland in 3 weeks, when they were 4.5 games out on June 18th. And a reminder, they were as many as 8 games out on April 21st, 3 weeks into the season. So, like I said, it has seemed like kind of a long journey to get this close. It's possible, the Guardians might, again, get hot and the Twins might lose some ground. And we'll talk a little bit later in the show about maybe how important or unimportant that is to actually win first place in the AL Central as opposed to just making the playoffs. Brandon, why don't we take a commercial break at this point and then get back into it?
Yeah, that sounds great. We'll pause. Also, too, when we come back, I do want to make note of the Twins playoff and divisional odds because those are ever-changing as well, according to our friends at Fangraphs. So we'll take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll do just that. This episode of Locked On Twins is brought to you by Booking.com. With hotels, bed and breakfasts, vacation rentals, resorts, and so much more on Booking.com, you just might find your perfect stay, even if it's in Chicago, Cleveland, Detroit, or Kansas City. AL Central cities that all have nice spots where you can stay. When you said the Twins were as close as they've been to Cleveland in a while, I was like, you know what? They're in Chicago. I don't think it's that close. But you weren't talking about physical proximity. But with that said, I, for one, love going down to KC, maybe to visit Dave someday, but to see games at the Big K because it's a whole heap of fun to see the highway there out beyond left field, the fountains, and even just to mill around the park. It's a lot more intimate than I think I expected going into it now that I've been there a couple times. But I would highly recommend you go check it out, and booking.com is the way to do it. The right stay can make you a fan of any U.S. city, even those 4 that we talked about who are the big rivals in the AL Central. Book today on booking.com on the site or the booking.com app. And you got to love yourself some Game Time. If you love going to games like I do in the summer, again, whether it's at Target Field, the Big K, Progressive Field, I'm still going to call it the Jake Comiskey Park. I'm still going to, all these have old names except for Comerica. The only thing Comerica has that doesn't exist anymore is that left field fence that got moved in because Juan Gonzalez got ticked off. But you can go to any of those and use Game Time, and it's a perfect app for you to find tickets for the best price. And it's not just baseball games. There's going to be NFL games, whether it's preseason, regular season. And before you know it, we're going to be back to NBA, NHL. It seems like even the trees in some places here in Minnesota are starting to have a little tinge of yellow to them. So get ready for the upcoming seasons, but baseball is it right now. And there's all kinds of different options for you to get a deal. Flash deals means you can save more with exclusive in-app deals on select seats ahead of the game or event. Or you can do a zone deal, which is saving even more when you choose a section and let Game Time pick the seats for you. And my favorite part is all-in pricing. You toggle that feature and it shows you the total up front. None of that bait and switch that other place has, where you get to the end and you find out you owe $20-$30 more than you expected. And seat views, you can get a panoramic view of wherever you would be sitting. You know what it's going to look like. You don't have to worry about those bars and beams in front of your face so you can't see the boys, the local 9 doing their thing. So take the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. But again, create an account and redeem the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed.
I want to talk a little bit more about how hard Wallner's hitting the ball.
Yes.
This is what Brooks Lee said. I mean, it's a joke. It's a joke. I thought I hit the ball hard yesterday. I thought I did. And it was like 99 miles an hour. I don't understand it. If he hits one near me and I'm at first base, he means like leading off.
Yep.
He's going to kill me. I don't know if he really means that or not. I think Brooks Lee's athletic enough to get out of the way.
By the way, did you see the story of what Brooks Lee's name almost was going to be?
Yeah, broccoli.
Broccoli. What the heck? Broccoli. That's a sign that your parents don't respect you, as if they call you broccoli.
I always like broccoli. I think that
I love broccoli. I just think
George Bush gave it a bad reputation. He didn't like broccoli.
Dana Carvey, chopping broccoli. The old SNL sketch. Do you remember that?
I do.
Yeah. So I think Dana Carvey saved it. And Dana Carvey, I also believe, played George Bush. So we're playing 7 degrees of separation with broccoli and George Bush. Not gonna do it.
We're really connecting all the dots, aren't we?
Yep.
But Wallner teed off against Jordan Leisure, as perhaps they say in England, Leisure, for a score-tying 7th inning 2-run homer.
A leisurely stroll, you might say.
They did. He had a leisurely slow around the bases. 116.7 miles an hour, tied for the second hardest hit for the Twins. I'm not sure if that was hit or a home run since StatCast started keeping track. So it looked like it hurt. It's one of those that it looked like it hurt the ballpark when it hit. It didn't hit a person because the White Sox don't necessarily draw that well.
You should see the other guy.
Yeah, really. But it's one of those like, oh, that made a dent. Wallner definitely adds another dimension to the roster. We talked a little bit about this yesterday, or in a recent previous episode, about how there's very few easy spots in the lineup for the Twins. It's not so much that one guy is carrying them, but that it's hard to get when all 9 guys that the Twins can put in the lineup are doing well. It's hard to keep them from scoring, and that's reflecting in the total numbers.
Well, it's just the balance of this lineup, and you still have guys like Edouard Julien, who last year had a phenomenal season, This year, obviously, hit the skids a little bit, but not in the lineup, not even in the major leagues. You look at the depth chart on any given day. Right now, they don't even have – they list Matt Wallner as a bench bat for the Twins. They list – so it's Vasquez, Farmer, Margot, and Wallner. But they have 9 guys who could play every single day and Matt Wallner. So no wonder there's the demon lineup. And I've been impressed not only with Wallner's offense, but defensively, he's athletic. He moves around. And so between all of that, I've been impressed. He's in there tonight hitting 7th against righty, Eric Fetty. In fact, we got Margot hitting 8th and Vasquez 9th. Otherwise, it's Buxton, Jefferson, and Brooks Lee sitting to start the game. But 10 guys who can all crush the baseball. Manuel Margot, as long as he's not pinch hitting but is facing a lefty, is going to crush the baseball. And Christian Vasquez does this thing behind the plate.
So I wanted to, before I pivot back to the how the Twins are doing in the division and what the odds are and what it all means. I wanted to point out that Marnie Gellner has been is doing the play-by-play for this series, pinch hitting for Corey Provis, and she's done games in spring training before, but this is a first for regular season. And I think her calls have been excellent. She's got play-by-play experience in other sports too, basketball, I think, and maybe hockey. Yes, for sure. So it's not like, she doesn't know what she's doing out there. And I wonder, Jenny Cavnar's gotten some criticism in Oakland. She's a full-time play-by-play person out there. And criticism for her call, I think some of it is related to people are going to complain because she's a woman. Right. I think some of the complaints are she's a bit raw as a play-by-play person because she doesn't have as much experience as other people, obviously.
Uh-oh, we lost Dave here for a split second. He's talking about Jenny Cavnar and how she's been doing play-by-play for the A's and doing a fairly good job. And with Marnie, I said Marnie Gellner, which was Justin Morneau plus Marnie Gellner, which I thought was clever. But again, I'm kind of patting myself on the back for that one. But I think in general, Marnie has done a terrific job. And she's just an outstanding person, a fun person to get to know. She does very, very well with everything she does, whether she's on the morning show on KFan or if she's doing a sideline report at Target Field, anything like that. Marnie has been just a tremendous, tremendous talent. And actually, my family reminded me, my father, that she was on WDAZ in Grand Forks when I was a kid. I don't even remember her from then, but so she's been in the area for quite some time. Minot, North Dakota.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay.
He's back.
Sorry, but I don't know if that's exactly retribution for something, but my point was that I think if the A's had picked someone like Marnie, maybe a little more seasoned, I don't know that. I think that the criticism, the anti-feminism criticism would still be there, but I don't think that people would complain about the mechanics of the broadcast at all because she's tremendous. She fits right in, and it's been fun to have something different during the season than what we're used to. So.
It'd be way more knuckle draggers that you would worry about as opposed to, any broadcaster isn't immune from criticism or at least constructive, hey, I wish you did this a little different or whatever. But when the person is fully competent and capable, and I have no doubt that Jenny Cavnar is or isn't far from it. And I think Jessica Mendoza too did a nice job with what they had her do on Sunday Night Baseball. Eventually it just becomes, you hate it because you hate women, and it's nasty work.
It's a tough job for anybody to do. So it's
way harder than people think.
Yes. Any kind of TV is difficult.
Yep.
Making yourself, look what I just did. This isn't exactly TV, but I just knocked over my microphone and made you have to cover for a whole minute.
Hey, I made it work. I did a little tap dance here. I got the disco shoes out.
So it's a difficult job, but I'm glad that Marnie Gilner is there to do it. So actually, at this point, let's take our next commercial break, and then when we come back, we'll talk about the Twins' odds of making the playoffs and exactly what that means, making the playoffs versus winning the AL Central.
Got to show some love for Prize Picks, America's #1 daily fantasy sports app. With over 5 million active members, it's the easiest and most exciting way to play DFS. It's just you and the numbers, and it's you picking more than or less than on 2 to 6 stat projections and watching that money, those winnings roll in. You can get in on the daily action with your friends and just become part of the Prize Picks community today. Right now, you can win up to 100 times your money with as few as 4 correct picks. So you can turn $1 into 110 into 1,000. It's math. It's simple math. If you're looking for promos as well, Prize Picks has you covered every single week, from lowering select player stats projections on Tuesdays, such as today, or to help your lineup hit. Or you can get your entry fee back if you have a losing lineup on Fridays. So check every day. You'll find something interesting. Prize Picks available in more than 30 states across the country, notably California, Texas, and Georgia. Check out for your state to see if it applies. Otherwise, download the Prize Picks app today. Use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. Again, that code is LOCKEDONMLB. It's all one word on Prize Picks for a deposit match up to $100. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy.
So we talked a little bit about the Twins getting a little bit closer in the AL Central. If you look at Baseball Reference, they are 84.5% to make the playoffs. At Baseball Prospectus, 85.8%. And at Fangraphs, it just keeps getting better. 87.5. If I kept naming sites, maybe it would be over 100 at some point. It'd be like a Wallner home run. The Guardians are still favored, being in first place. It makes sense to win the Central. I think every place. They are minus $190 with the Twins at plus 165 at FanDuel. That's the last place I checked to win the AL Central. How much do you think, Brandon, actually coming away? The playoffs are looking good for the Twins as they're set right now. What difference does it make that they win the division?
And I'm not sure what to make of this, but the Twins have a 7.8% to win the World Series on Fangraphs, and the Guardians are only 4.8. So not quite double, but I'm not really sure what that means. At the end of the day, I don't know that winning the division matters that much. It's a cool flag to hang in your stadium. Flags fly forever.
Fly forever, I hear, right?
Yeah, I think isn't that a Chicago rallying cry? Or maybe I'm wrong. I thought it was. But it would be great to win the division. I think 5 games is when I start feeling like maybe you're in that mix. Now, again, 5 games in September versus July is obviously different. But for this point in the season, you're a little over halfway. You're coming up on the All-Star break. If you're within 5 games, you got a shot. Meanwhile, Royals 8.5, Tigers 14 back. The Tigers, who were supposed to be an entirely new ball club, but starting to look like they're going to part it out. I don't know. I've been impressed with how the Twins have just hung in there. The Guardians just never seem to lose. And suddenly, Twins 4 games back in the win column, 6 games back in the loss column. It's getting real. 5 games is pretty dang close.
So if you look at recent history, as recently as last season, the Rangers and Diamondbacks met in the World Series as wildcard teams. 2 years before, in 2023. The year before that, the Phillies made the World Series as a wild card. The Nationals in 2019. Now it's starting to get sparse because whenever Major League Baseball, tweaks the playoffs a little bit, it's to make it a little more difficult for those teams that didn't win the division.
Well, one of those was a wild card team that advanced because Trent Grisham bobbled the ball in the outfield, right?
Well, that's part of it for sure. Yes.
I think that was that the Nationals? I can't remember for sure.
Yeah, that was the Nationals. Yes, that's correct.
Imagine that Nationals team not even making it past the first round, kind of like the Tigers back when it was Scherzer, Verlander, and Price, and they didn't even win a single playoff game. It's amazing what October can do.
Absolutely. And if you look at history before that, for a number of years in the middle part of the decade, the 2014 Giants and Royals, they were wild card teams. The 2011 Cardinals, also a wild card team, and they played in the World Series. Every season but one, from 2007, from 2000 to 07, at least one wild card team made the World Series. So it's not the end of the world if the Twins don't win the AL Central, but it does, there are advantages as far as rest and not having to burn certain starters and get into your bullpen really deep. I mean, we all know the advantages, but it isn't the end all be all if the Twins don't happen to win the AL Central. Although I think they still can, and I think they should actually, even coming from as far back as they are. So,
maybe the tough uphill climb is what does it. Like you just have to be battle tested in October.
For sure. But it's also about, we've mentioned Brock Stewart going on a rehab assignment. How is Brock Stewart going to be feeling in September and October when the playoffs start? I mean, that's the timing of it. It isn't necessarily just about getting everybody healthy for the rest of the season, but when they're healthy at the end of the season and what kind of luck you have there.
How much do you care that he's going to have less mileage on his arm from this season?
How much do I care, like, what effect it might have on him toward the end of this season?
Yeah, he'll have thrown 40 innings as opposed to 70 or 35.
Yeah, I don't know. That's sort of what I'm getting at in terms of, well, it's not necessarily a negative that Stewart wouldn't have pitched a full season, but
chicken and egg.
It is a little bit. And but the thing about it, like I just the timing of who's healthy in September for whatever reason, whether it's because of use of the regular season or, we weren't that much into the season when Stewart went down this year. So it wasn't because of overuse. It was just because of that was the time for his shoulder to start barking. So it wasn't because, well, he had been used a bunch of days in a row or the cumulative effect of pitching every day got to him. It's just the nature of the arm. And it really is about luck at the end of the season, trying to figure out exactly who's going to be healthy and when that timing is. So, all right. So we've got, you mentioned Bailey Ober versus Eric Fetty today. That's not going to be an easy game. Eric Fetty is out all-star adjacent first half. Garrett Crochet made the squad, and we'll see in the next few days about if there are any replacements. Fetty's certainly got to be on a short list. So this is it's the White Sox, but it's not going to be easy, is it?
No, absolutely not. He's been it's actually almost unthinkable that team is 41 games under 500 with two of the better starters in the AL between Crochet and Fetty. And then Thorpe, who the Twins will end the series against, is no slouch himself. By the way, I was going to ask you, do elbows bark or is it like only shoulders that bark? Because I feel like that's the colloquialism that, shoulders bark and everything else is a little different.
This would be a good question for like an old pitching coach. And Pete Mackey might be the only non-old pitching coach around. I don't know. But, those guys know the phrases a little bit more. But, yeah, it does seem like the barking shoulder is sometimes feet also bark. But that's not really necessarily related to baseball. But, that's a body part that barks. The shoulder is. But I don't know that the elbow is a barking joint.
I don't think so. I don't.
But, is it that different? I don't know. But so, all right. I think that's going to wrap it up for this one. The White Sox series continues, and we're going to probably talk to you after the next ball game. But for until then, for Brandon Warren, this is Dave Brown saying you've been Locked On Twins, and we're going to see you
tomorrow night.